we were taught to, we had low self-esteem. And even though a lot of us projected it, when we were kids towards other people, which ultimately brought them down, we were actually taught to self-hate ourselves because whether we light skin, dark skin, tall, short, it don't matter the differences. The issue was that we were given a mind that caused us to hate and put ourselves down. And because we were ourselves insecure, we did our best to try and make others around us feel insecure a lot more than we did. And that made us at least feel good because somebody else was feeling lower than us. But it ultimately caused us to hate ourselves, whether we were conscious of it. And that's the depth of the deception that the Year Gentile world, motivated by the spirit of error, did to us, and the effects of it is generational. We pass it on to our children, and back in the day, they pass it on their children pass it on their children to today when we receive it. And if we're not careful, we can inherit, indirectly pass it on to our children, and they can inherit the same lies and deception. And there's a powerful movie that was created about 15 years ago that talked about the war of the mind and how, the ego, which is the aspect of our consciousness that makes us have a level of self-importance above everybody else, how that it tricks us into thinking that the things that we do that are self-centered is the thing that we should be doing that lifts us up without us being conscious of it. It's called a Revolver. And it stars Jason Statham and Ray Liotta. It came out like 2005. And there's two versions of the movie. There's an American version and then there's a European version. The European version came out first, 2005. But 2 years later, the version came out in America, and it's like 20 minutes of the movie cut off. So if you can find the European version, is better. But the story revolves around this individual who's coming out of jail, and he was like a gangster, and he's trying to get revenge on the gangster who put him in jail. And it's like a crime drama, but that's just the surface level of it. Under the surface is really a war with the individual, the main character, and his ego. It's very profound. I had to watch it like 2 or 3 times before I could get the hidden message. But I recommend people check it out. It's called Revolver. And Andre 3000, the rapper and the singer, he's in it too. It's very good. But that idea of us being trained to go to war against ourselves, that's masterful warfare. If you can get an enemy to go to war against himself, then that's when you got them where you want them. And you can win the war like that. And the adversary's been winning the war like that. He put his spirit in us, and before you know it, we started becoming self-destructive. And we've created an environment that causes self-destruction on a mass level. So what I want to do now, I want to go into GPT and just read the answer of the portion the father gave for the second question. And it is here on page 19. Reads on this wise: the Euro-Gentile gave you the idea of an inferiority complex in your early childhood, even before you could read. Children receive their first worldly images and impressions from pictures. Therefore, before you could read, you opened the Bible, and from the pictures you received, your first impressions of God and angels, and you have never forgotten what you saw. You saw pictures of a European Jesus on the cross, a European Jesus carrying the cross and teaching the people on the Mount of Olives. You saw a picture of a European Mary, the mother of Jesus. And you saw pictures of angels in negligees with wings on their backs. You saw many other pictures of Europeans being cast in the surroundings of the Holy Land. as you grew up, you never realized that it was those childhood thoughts of Euro Gentiles as God that started you on the path of attempting to prove yourself worthy and acceptable to Europeans. He has portrayed himself as God, having both your future and your destiny in his hands. And I can keep reading on because he goes a little further into that idea. But this is what you all were talking about. It started before we could even fathom what an adversary was, or spiritual warfare was, and we saw images and we were taught things that were false about our history regarding y'all, the people of the Bible and truth. And before you know it, we grew up with that inferiority complex that the European was equal to God. You see the European, all of a sudden, this idea of holiness and purity pops in your head without you even being aware of it, because you're associating with the pictures in the Bible and the pictures in biblical movies that you see. You're associating with Pope in Rome and how he's considered on the seat of the throne of God. And if you're not careful, if you're not taught anything else, you'll just accept that as the norm. That's what it is. Europeans are elevated, they're high to this. They establish these great societies. They're in these high political positions. And you just look at yourself, you're like, oh man, we're in ghettos, we're on welfare, our people are criminals. And before you even realize it, you're manifesting self-hate for yourself. And those seeds go deep. They go deep. And it takes profound introspection to be able to find out exactly how deep those lies and deception go and be able to uncover them, bit by bit, and you can't just do it alone. Like the brother said, we have to love and become one with one another. This is where our strength is. This is where the power comes from. Where 2 or 3 or more come together in Yah's name, Yah said that's where I would be. That's our salvation. We have to put Yah first in everything we do. And those that do, we have to come together in common mind and spirit and begin to look out for one another and help each other and begin to build one another and, begin to inspire each other to heal. Because there's been a lot of damage that's been done in the Black and African communities in the United States, of course, but throughout the world. This deception is broad. So, we have to continue to, like you said, have understanding of the level of deception that our people are under and our families are under. And, we have to do our best to be an example, live an example for them. So those that are willing to hear us, beyond all the little sly remarks and ridicule here and there, one day when they're ready, they'll humble themselves. They say, you know what? My brother or my sister or my uncle or my auntie, she was doing something right. Let me gravitate towards her and, just inquire what motivated her to do what she's doing and living this righteous lifestyle that's in harmony with, the will of the Creator in the Bible, and also creates harmony in her environment. That's our charge. So, but hallelujah, I'm enjoying the dialogue. Let's continue on. Well, what I want to do, I want to, before I go into the next question, I want to read a portion that the father wrote in his book regarding the influence of religion in our lives and how it affected us. This is on page 20. Bottom paragraph says, religion, in quotes, in some form exists in 3/4 of the world. There are entire countries and societies identified with a specific quote unquote religion. Yet religion, as we are taught it by the Euro Gentiles, Roman Catholicism and all of its Protestant offspring, has yet to come close to producing a righteous society or even a righteous state, city, or community. Nay, not even one individual. The entire Euro-Gentile world is characterized by corruption, immorality, and greed. It is plagued by terrorism and other forms of violence, and is beset by confusion and chaos, while the nations and cultures of the quote unquote so-called developing world rush towards Westernization as rapidly as their economies will allow. Yet surely, by its fruits, we must discern that the Euro-Gentile world is completely wrong. And that's so true. You know a tree by the fruit that it bears. So if a society is truly about God and holiness and righteousness, divinity, it's like, okay, where's your fruits at? You know, show me in your lifestyle and your society that you all are prospering and people are healthy. You don't have a world of sick people. You don't have a world of people committing crimes, sin. You don't have a world where homosexuality is running rampant and is actually lifted up as something good and great in society. You don't have broken up family structures. Your environment isn't in disarray and polluted, where you can't drink the water. You're afraid to go outside in the sun. The food that you eat has all types of chemicals on it and is killing you. I mean, show me the fruits of your society. But you can see in those fruits what the truth about that tree really is. What is that tree? That tree is unrighteous. It's adversarial. So, us having the power to discern it is very important and powerful in this dispensation of time.